one of the people is in charge of that stump. I was like, I don't know how you become a stump warden. How do you become any of these positions?
I imagine it's like a family tradition. Like your father was the stump warden before you, and he passes down all the rules and
the secrets of the
the
trade,
tips and tricks of being a stump warden.
Come from a long line of stump wardens. And
my granddaddy was a stump warden before me, and his dad before him.
Yeah. So that it made me want to do some research because I would see what was going on, but it was so chaotic, and the sound kept cutting out. The stream was not of good quality.
Okay.
And I started reading up about it, and I think I'm going to just read to you, Sebastian, the Wikipedia entry for exactly what the tradition is.
Okay.
And I want you to make sense of it for me.
I'll try.
A select group called the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club Inner Circle takes care of Phil year-round and also plans the annual ceremony. So someone's taking care of this thing year-round.
That makes sense.
It does, but I wonder it does make sense, but I wonder what kind of treatment this thing gets, and I imagine it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Members of the Inner Circle are recognizable by their top hats and tuxedos. The vice president of the Inner Circle prepares 2 scrolls in advance of the actual ceremony, one proclaiming 6 more weeks of winter, one proclaiming an early spring.
Okay.
So far, this is blowing my mind because I thought the groundhog is the one that just lets everybody know.
Well, yes.
There's so much more preparation.
The groundhog lets them know by seeing its shadow or not, but the 2 scrolls are what you read depending on the result.
But I think in this, it doesn't even say anything about seeing his shadow. That might even be a myth. Like, as if all this wasn't like mythical enough.
Yeah.
So at daybreak on February 2nd, Punxsutawney Phil awakens from his burrow on Gobbler's Knob, is helped to the top of the stump by his handlers. And this year, to note, there was a new handler, and they made they made sure people were very aware that this is his first time handling Punxsutawney. So we were to, just allow him a certain level of error.
Okay.
Because it's difficult to handle an angry rodent in the morning.
He hasn't had a coffee yet.
It does say right here about the shadow. So, and explains to the president of the Inner Circle I got to start this part over because it's very,
amazing.
Very crucial. So the groundhog is helped to the top of the stump by his handlers and explains to the president of the Inner Circle in a language known as groundhogese whether or not he has seen his shadow.
I wonder what groundhogese is like.
Well, you'll never
overhear
know.
any of it
No.
on the live stream?
You could see definitely the groundhog is up to the president's ear.
Is he speaking to the groundhog?
And the groundhog is speaking to the president. And you can see his little mouth like chirp, like moving, like it's clearly moving because rodents usually twitch their mouth constantly. Yeah. But the president of the Inner Circle, the only person able to understand groundhogese, do you know how he's able to understand this? He's only able to understand groundhogese through his possession of an ancient acacia wood cane.
Oh my goodness.
And that interprets Phil's message. So he's the only person who's able to hear what the groundhog has seen about his shadow. And then he directs the vice...
You could watch the groundhog.
You could, but
you don't really need the groundhog to talk to you.
You don't know if he's seen it, though. Anyway, it's a long game of phone, telephone here.
Between groundhogs and humans, it gets translated into groundhogese.
The message was lost somewhere. But the ancient acacia wood cane really helps matters.
Well, it ties it all together.
So then he directs to the vice president to read the proper scroll to the anxiously anticipating crowd gathered on Gobbler's Knob and to the masses of faithful followers tuned into the live broadcast around the world. So
I can just imagine
the 2 scrolls.
This little groundhog standing on a stump, leaning over, putting his hand beside his mouth as if he's whispering a secret to the president, and just like, and then pointing to a scroll, and then he's like, Phil has proclaimed, and he rolls it out. So what was Phil's proclamation this year?
It's not just, they don't just say, yeah, he saw a shadow, or nah, man.
Well, I mean, with all that pomp and circumstance, it'd be weird if after all of that, and the special cane, that it was like, so Phil says, nah, man, didn't see it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the winter.
Have a good wedding, Linda. No, they're so serious about it. And this is one of the because like this is when I'm struggling to stay awake, and then I see this old man in a top hat and tuxedo start yelling out to the crowd while holding this groundhog, and there's a big scroll that he's reading from. Let it be known that Punxsutawney Phil, seer of seers, sage of sages, prognosticator of prognosticators, and weather prophet extraordinaire, has declared 6 more weeks of winter. And then the crowd boos. The crowd actually didn't boo, but like he kind of understood that it was not a good reading. So he was like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What nonsense is this? What kind of a tradition is this?
It's sheer madness.
Prognosticator of prognosticators. This groundhog is the seer of seers.
Yes.
Terrifying.
I wonder how many Punxsutawney Phils there have been.
I wonder. Rodents don't live for more than 7-8 years.
I assume Punxsutawney Phil is like one of the best treated groundhogs in all the world.
Oh yeah.
So he may live to a ripe old age of 9.
Probably.
But in your mind, Matthew, does it matter what Phil says as far as does it change the way the weather is going to be? Is he accurate, or is that just a regional difference? Should you be listening to Quebec's very own Fred Lamarmotte?
I wouldn't want to listen to a marmot when I have Punxsutawney. He's the oldest, I think, 100 years.
Well, they've been doing it for 100 years, but I don't. Okay,
he's a mythical creature. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they announce when he dies and when a replacement. It's not like the Pope. Like
there's,
exactly.
There's gray smoke coming out of the stump.
Yeah. No, I think it's I mean, there's a lot of things about it that they don't really talk about, like how the scrolls are actually. Apparently, the groundhog has nothing to do with it. This is also on Wikipedia, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But one of the things they don't really talk about is that the members of the inner circle gather beforehand and discuss the theatrics of it and what they're going to do and what they're going to have the groundhog say and how they're going to announce it to the crowd. So they decide beforehand
all this
6 weeks.
All
or
this
less.
grandstanding with Punxsutawney Phil is just a load of hooey.
Yeah,
maybe we should trust Wyerton Willie a little more. Fred Lamarmotte. I mean, while we were in Denny's, they had a list of different. I believe they were only the Canadian groundhogs of different regions. There were like maybe
Punxsutawney was in there, I think.
Was he? Yeah, I guess so. He was. But there were a list of maybe 5, and like viewers voted on which marmot they trusted the most.
Yeah, it's just one. It's one of those final, maybe not final, but it's one of the last like glimmers of the old world we have. I think other than like the royal family, this is like the second in line for just such a strange tradition.
Strange old tradition. Yet. It's true.
I mean, I guess maybe it was just space filler in the morning when they were doing all their rapping and their singing, and like they were inexplicably like both kissing the same woman, 2 guys in the tuxedo, and like she looked a little confused too, and I didn't know what was going on.
Was she a groundhog?
She wasn't. She was just a woman they invited up on stage to, I guess, dance around her and then kiss her on either cheek.
This sounds like not the proper behavior in this current climate.
Probably not. And they have this one guy out there who's just trying to rile up the crowd. So he's getting half of the crowd to yell out "ground," and then the other half to go "hog," and they're doing this "ground," louder and louder.
So he's Phil's hype man.
More cultish and more cultish. There's this weird thing that I wasn't able to find any information on it, but they would yell out "dealy dealy dealy" all the time.
Okay,
like "dealy dealy 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 dealy." Everyone's yelling this out. Groundhog.
This does sound like some nonsense 1800s hoopla.
Oh yeah, and anyway, I just took so many. It was such a strange morning. If anyone had walked into the room I was in, it just would look insane because I had one TV screen with Groundhog's Day playing, another like computer screen with this chat room open and some people on a couch watching it.
Okay,
watching the movie that I was watching to my left.
Got it.
And another screen with a live stream of insanity. Like it would just made no sense.
Of insanity.
I don't know, man. And like, even just I have so many screenshots, and one of them is just like 5 old men in tuxedos and top hats huddled around that groundhog. like inspecting him, and it was so strange, man.
You've
I don't understand
You've
it.
saved some of these photos. Maybe we'll post some of these photos up when we put this particular episode up on Facebook.
Yeah.
So if you've seen this through Facebook, you could probably see some of the photos already. If you found this through other means, go find our Facebook account and check out some of these photos of old men in top hats going crazy over a rodent.
Yes, and very quickly, not to talk too much about the movie, but when was the last time you saw this movie, Groundhog Day?
Maybe 2-3 years ago.
Now, how long? Like there was a lot of discussion on the message board about how long he was actually going through this loop of days.
Sure.
So what would your estimate be?
How many days he relived?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say,
or even years if you want to go in years.
no, I don't think it's years. I want to say it's like maybe around 100.
Okay. Now, I
Because
think
there are a lot of quick cuts where it's like, this is a day, this is a day, this is a day. And we see like maybe 10 or 20 seconds of that day.
Yeah.
Or less.
But like at a certain point, like he masters how to play the piano. He knows everybody in town. He masters ice cart, like
Ice sculpting?
ice sculpting.
That's true. These are things
And
that
he
would take
kills
more than a
himself.
single day. Yeah.
He kills
a bunch
himself
of times.
multiple times. I wonder how many times it takes to decide you just want to end it all. Or the rush of death, because he knows he's going to wake up the next day.
I
But
feel like that's in like the third day in the movie, isn't it?
I think it's all through the editing. It's just very hard to edit it the right way. But the director had said at one point, because I think there was a lot of speculation where people had figured out how long would it really take to be not able to play the piano at all to become the level of expertise that he was at.
Well, there's that whole 10,000 hours thing, right?
Yeah, 10,000 hours. But I think there was something about him being stuck in that day for 10,000 years.
Oh my God.
And it may have been 10,000 days, which is still a really long time.
Well,
But-
let's say 10,000 hours. That's a 24th. Let's say it's only up for 12 hours.
Yeah.
We've already cut 10,000 way down.
Well, we know he wakes up very early. He's
That's
got to wake
true.
up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
to Sonny and Cher. And then he just goes about his day. But 10,000 days, 10,000 hours, 10,000 years. Let's go with the most extreme
Okay,
thing.
okay.
10,000 years. That is like,
That's absolutely
and you
maddening.
can't kill yourself. You can kill yourself, but you wake up the next day. But during watching the movie, we came to this realization, like it's not just for him that he's reliving this day. Every time he dies or like wakes up, I think he is creating an alternate timeline.
Arguably, sure.
Because we see him, the one time we see him die by jumping off of a building,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go to 6 a.m. the next day. Now we see his two coworkers have to go to the morgue and identify his body. And they're
That
like,
could be still the night of, though.
yeah, but I mean, every time we see him die, it's like he, instead of dying, he immediately wakes up at 6 a.m. So he's like, it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
So it looks like he's just ruining his reputation day after day when he like goes, because there's one scene where he steals a groundhog, he drives off in this stolen truck and just goes off a cliff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm pretty sure that timeline continues for everybody else, where it's like he was a normal guy yesterday and then he stole the groundhog and killed himself.
Impossible to say.
Except
for all we know, at midnight, the world resets for all.
Maybe, man, I don't know. It really seemed like their life continued, because it's hard to say. I don't know. It was a strange time. I hadn't slept in 24 hours, but
All right, Matthew.
but yeah, we can move on.
So, Matthew, do you want to talk a little bit about your burger? If you enjoyed your burger, what were your thoughts on that burger? And did you think Denny's would put together a good burger for you?
No comment. No, I think I need to. That's the point of this thing. Let's do it. Do I think Denny's would what?
Did you presume that you'd get a good burger at Denny's?
You know what I did, because they offer quite a bit of burgers, and I feel like anything they do, they're going to put their heart into a little bit, because it's just their way.
Because it's Ontario.
Yeah, and
You understand Denny's is a multinational chain.
yeah.
That's the whole point of this episode, that we're doing another major chain burger. Do you feel like you get a lot of heart in other major chain restaurants?
I do. Denny's is very family oriented.
Okay, fair enough.
They were so friendly when we walked in.
They really were.
Making jokes too.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaning up some crumbs. I think at one point she said something about customers not liking breadcrumbs on the carpet.
Yeah, she was. She joked about at the end of our meal, she was vacuuming up, and she said that, can you believe it? The dinner customers don't like seeing hash brown from the morning customers. Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah.
Do your job. Don't give me a friggin' explanation about every damn thing you do.